Hey guys, Ed over here at FICM Repair. So this video is really in response to this comment, and it says, I worked at International for like ever, and on the VT365, I never had these problems. And it's like, the 6.0 is a different beast. I would tell you it's a turned up beast. How different is this than if you've only got one thing going on in your life, say you've only got a part-time job, say you don't work outside the home and you've got housekeepers and stuff, say you've got just a regular job and, you're working 40 hours a week and that's all you've got going on. It's not a dig at all. In fact, I'm jealous of you, truth be known. Or say you're somebody that has got a lot going on and you are constantly pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and you're living on 3 hours of sleep or 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep instead of the 8 that your doctor says you need. Are you gonna go ahead and tear your body apart sooner? The answer is yes. This is why health and wellness and all these kinds of things are so very important. And so if you're not taking the time for you, maybe think about taking the time for you. But the Power Stroke 6 liter has, it came from Ford with, quite a bit more horsepower than the VT365 ever did. So it runs hotter, more is asked of it. And so because more is asked of it, obviously things that, parts that worked great in the lower horsepower motor don't work so great in the higher horsepower motor. Just think about it. The VT365 had options down as low as 175 horsepower, yes, and there were 200, 215, and 230 horsepower options, and there was very few, but a higher horsepower, 300 horsepower variant existed in some RV and motorhome applications. That's totally true. But the Power Stroke, it consistently rated at 325 horsepower across all model years. And so it's like, okay, so what's the difference? It was tuned more aggressively by Ford, including, a variable geometry turbo for better throttle response to compete in the horsepower wars with the evil competition. Not evil, just kidding. For those of you that own Chevys, and it's fine, right? You understand. So when you go ahead and you push components, or you push your body, you push yourself further, don't you think you're going to have more issues? Of course you are. This is the reason why there's a huge thought process out there. It's like, look, I don't want to tune my 6.0. I'll live with the stock power. I like my wallet. I don't want to, when things break, that costs money. And it's like, well, yeah, it does. And so this is where people say, okay, let me go ahead and get some FICM tuning because that's safe power. I'm not going to increase the cylinder head gaskets, pressures against them any more than stock. But when you go ahead and you put in a set of 155/30s or a set of 205 100s, holy buckets for injectors, you're obviously going to be pushing things harder. And this is where monitoring becomes such a big deal. So you get your Edge Insight CTS3, you turn on audible alerting. That way you don't blow things up. So as long as you can keep your oil temps down, keep your oil temp, south of 230 degrees, stuff's just going to last longer. This is just how it is. And so the O-rings are going to last longer. Everything is going to last longer. So as long as you don't push it, it's fine. If you do push it, that's fine too, within the confines of what the motor is able to sustain. This is the reason why we're huge fans, because I want to squeeze every last little bit of fuel economy I can out of my motor. And interestingly enough, the more power you're pushing, seems like the more fuel economy you're getting. That's called a win. And so who wouldn't want that? Now, this was linked to this conversation about these CNC machined dummy plugs and standpipes from CSC Diesel. And it's like, hey, and when that first came out, I got to admit I was skeptical. I'm kind of no longer skeptical, and some of that skepticism probably eked into a video or two. And I'm here to say that maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe I judged a little too fast. So here we have a product, and yeah, it's spendy, but I mean, come on, that R&D's got to get paid for somehow. But there's nothing to fail, and so it's not a situation where your O-rings are going to get deteriorated, or things are going to be so sensitive, right? Now, is this to say that the OE solution, the OE solution now is just, there seems to be a rebranded Dorman. All signs point to yes on that. So, but is this to say that like the diesel site solution is a bad solution? Not at all. It's a quarter of the price for all intents and purposes. And so it's like, okay, so if it's a quarter to a fifth the price, I mean, maybe I want to do that if I don't want to drop the bones on this. This is $1,000 solution. So what's your piece worth to you? How badly do you want to get? I was talking to a tow company operator just earlier today. As a matter of fact, he's like, I need my stuff to work. And so what did he do? He bought a set of these from us. Well, awesome, because he needs his stuff to work. And he was not just a tow truck operator, he was a repo man. So yeah, he was a tow truck operator and a repo man. And you know who you are. Feel free to put it in the comments. Yeah, that was me. What he's like, I can't be having my truck not start. I get that, man. Someone's probably coming after you with a baseball bat or worse. So if you need your stuff to work, this is a ticket to that ride, right? Now, is this to say that the other solutions don't work fine? They do. And by the way, if you're looking at monitoring and stuff, if you got your Edge Insight CTS3 and you want early indication of a problem, take a look at your IPR duty cycle on your Edge Insight CTS3 or your SCTX4 or your Elm device, whatever you got. And at hot idle, on stock injectors, you should be at 23% IPR duty cycle at hot idle, 180 degree oil or better, right? And that's where you should be, 23%. So if you're 24, okay, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, you're getting to a no start. And so this is the benefit, no start hot. This is the benefit of monitoring gauges. They give you early indication. So it's not that the power strokes are just natively unreliable. It's that you're asking a metric ton more of them. For those of you with employees, you lean on those people a little harder. I mean, that might go for a little while, but eventually they're going to get tired of you, and they're going to bail. And so we were having a conversation in our staff meeting just today about adding additional personnel to the team to better take care of you guys, because we're hearing, hey, I tried calling in and I just got voicemail. Well, we're busy, and so so if somebody's looking for a gig and they happen to live in the Des Moines metro, by all means, have them holler at us. But because we got an open position, maybe more than one, we'll see. But the point is that if you push things, don't expect when you break them. And that is true in this motor. That's true in your relationships. That's true in life. That's true of your own self. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. That's what Mom always said, isn't it? Wasn't she right about that? And recognize that different camels can support different amounts of weight. So we should all know ourselves and say, hey, how much can we take? And we should know our Power Stroke 6 liters and say, hey, how much can it take? So as long as you're building within the confines, if you got a rig that's tow capacity is, say 12,000 pounds, does that mean that at 12,001 is just magically not going to pull the extra pound? Of course it'll pull the extra pound, but you're going out of specs. You're saying, hey, my allowable stopping distance, I just exceeded that, or whatever the case is, right? So you can push these things and they will take it, but within the confines of acceptability. And so monitoring allows you to do that. Say, hey, don't let your EGTs go over 1,200 for more than a minute. Don't ever exceed 1,500. And I know your best friend's cousin's brother-in-law's nephew, he saw 1,700 on his gauge and his engine's still going. That's true. But why do you want to take the chance? I sell engines, right? I don't want to have to sell you one. So get monitoring and then add up for yourself whether or not the reliability that this kit offers is worth it to you. There's no right answers. If it is, by all means, hop on FICM Repair and buy a set. Yes, by all means. If reliability is the king, you want this product. If you're like, man, I can live with paying a fourth or a fifth the price and get the diesel site solution, by all means. The good news is we don't have a dog in the hunt. We sell both. We just want to help you. So hopefully my videos have you thinking about a larger picture of what's important in your life. And, counseling is always free, quite evidently, at FICMRepair.com. We appreciate you guys. Hang in there. Take care. We're all in this together.